Instead of speeding it up like last time, he takes his time and does a 100 slice backhand dink cross court back to him, and then he dinks the ball back to my son over here. Okay, and then my son did a more aggressive 200 backhand topspin dink, which sets up the ball beautifully for me. And I hit a cross court to my son again, and this time my son was in a good position. Look how balanced his body is, and because of that he was in a good position to do a speed up, and the quality of the speed up was definitely better than the previous one. And the other guy pops up the ball. Hey guys, my son and I did our first ever tournament together. It was men's doubles, 3-5 to 4-0 level. The tournament was run in a trio format, meaning each team has a total of 3 players. So for my team, it was my wife, my son, and I. So for each match, there's going to be 2 mixed doubles games and 1 men's doubles games. So the men's doubles game is obviously between my son and I. For the mixed doubles games, one is going to be between my wife and I. The other one is going to be played by my wife and my son. For your background, my son is currently 10 years old, and prior to this tournament, he's only had one other tournament, which was the 2024 US Nationals Junior Pickleball that was held in Houston, Texas. So playing against adults is very different from playing against other kids. And here we're talking players who are almost twice as tall as you, who can hit the ball way harder, can cover more core area. So it's definitely going to be a lot more challenging compared to his prior competitive experience. So between the 3 men's doubles games that my son and I played, I thought he did really, really well. Considering this was his first adult tournament, and the players were somewhere between 3-5 to 4-0, I would say. So the games are all regular scoring up to 11, but you win by 1 point. So the first game was actually really, really close. We ended up losing that first game by 10-11. We almost had a chance of winning that game. We're actually ahead in that game for a good chunk of the time, but we just couldn't close it out. The second game wasn't very close. It was like 2-11. We lost to a very good team. The third game, which was the last men's game that we did, we lost by 6-11. And this third game is the one I actually want to dive in. My son and I actually sat down after the game. We looked at this game point by point, and I went through and analyzed the game together with him, and we actually found quite a lot of learnings, and I wanted to share some of the learnings with you guys, and hopefully you can benefit from this type of analysis as well. Now, if you want to see more of this type of content moving forward from me, please comment down below and let me know. This is actually something I do a lot for my own games, just to help me get better and learn from my own mistakes. So hopefully you get a chance to see how I look at my own games, the kind of thought process that I go through as I look at each point, each shot. Let's dive right in. First point here. Okay, so that's just a miss return. Move on. Very good fourth shot. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. Okay, so here I had a pretty decent 200 backhand return that's quite deep into the middle of the court, and the guy over here drives the ball at my boy. And throughout the entire tournament, my son was definitely seeing a lot of balls. All the teams were targeting him, which I completely understand. So please don't judge any of the players on the other team. Heading into this tournament, we were fully prepared that everybody's going to try and target my son really hard. It is a tournament, it's fair competitions. It's you should do what you can within the rules to win the games. Part of the competition, fair and square. Now the drive was actually a very good drive. You can see here as the ball crosses the net, it was actually diving down. So a good drive by the other guy. Now my son actually did a very good job of following the ball back over the net, just behind the kitchen, and it's going to draw them in. Now at this point, you'll see that there's a big gap here. There's a big space here. So I think this is something that I talked to my son about. If he's heading the ball over here, there's a concept called shading, meaning both players on the court need to be aware of the position of the ball. So if the ball is here, then he would have been where he is now is a very good position, because then he can cut off the possible angles coming over to his side. Now, because the ball is here, this guy can actually head down the line this way. And if he does, then my son is probably not going to be able to have enough reach to cover this ball, to cut off the angle. So what I told my son when we're looking through this is that if he was going to head the ball over here, or if the ball somehow ends up around here somewhere, he needs to shift over towards this side of the court. And then as a result, I'll be shifting with him to cut off the angle so the opponent can't head through between us. So the guy saw this gap as well, and he drops the ball over here and pushes my son back. And my son hits a risky but good speed up. It's good because he hits a guy in a chicken wing, which makes the shot very uncomfortable for him. And he wasn't ready. As a result, he pops up the ball and the ball goes out. So let's move on to the next point. Okay, good drive. Okay, so here's the exact same thing as the last point. Let me go back a little bit and we'll see. Okay, so my son serves. It's a nice deep serve. And the guy returns the ball to the middle, and my son takes the third shot. He drives it down the middle. The drive was a little high, but luckily we did not get punished too hard by the other team. This person did a slice volley back down here. And then I was able to just drop the ball cross court in front of my son. Again, watch my son's positioning here. The ball is here, and he had a lot of time to position his body over towards the right hand side to cover down the line. But his positioning is very aggressive. He's standing over here, leaving a large gap between his body and the line, and it's quite dangerous. As you see, the opponent saw this opportunity and is targeting this big gap over here again with the next shot. And my son was able to get to the ball. It was an off-pace speed up. Not a very good spot this time. Again, I don't think the guy was ready. He mishits the ball went into the net. So a lucky point for us, a lucky point. Okay, next point. Okay, just a missed third. Okay, twice in a row. Again, guys, if you're working towards the 4.0 level, one of the most important thing to focus on is to make sure you get your first 4 shots consistent, right? You'd rather miss the ball high than miss it low, because heading the ball to the net is the worst thing you can possibly do to your own game. You're not achieving anything. The point is over instantly. But if you drive the ball, if you get the ball higher over the net, if it's a little too high, at least you're still in the point, right? You have a chance to come back from that point. It may put your team in a very bad position, but that point is not over yet. So do not mess into the net. I know it happened to my son twice in a row. It happens to me a lot as well, and it happens to a lot of players. But keep this in mind, okay? Just get the ball over is better than missing it to the net. Okay, returning it to the middle. Again, a missed third shot drop. Free point for us. Serve, return, drop towards my son. Okay, my son managed to hit a good volley A good punch volley, hitting the ball down at this guy's feet over here. This guy's feet over here. Very good spot. You see what's going on here is that the ball actually went behind his body. It's a little hard to see. He let the ball went behind his body, so his arm was behind his leg. He was trying to scoop the ball back up, and it's a very tough shot to hit. What I think he could have done here, and I make the same mistake myself too, but I would say probably the better thing to do here is to try and cut the ball out of the air as he comes down. So this way you keep the ball in front of you. It would have made the shot a little bit easier for him. And as you see, as a result of this, he actually pops up the ball. I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Xiaolan, also known as my wife, who's a licensed mortgage loan officer in 6 different states. She's worked with a diverse range of clients from first-time home buyers to well-established real estate investors, helping them to secure the financing they need to achieve their goals. Whether you're looking to buy a property with more pickleball courts and players nearby, or wanting to just refinance your existing home for a better interest rate, reach out to her at www.justiceloan.us. If you do get in touch with her, be sure to let her know that I referred you, because she does pay me with her kisses. I'll pop her contact details down below in the description. For an easy overhead. And then he gets the ball back impressively. Okay, I got lucky here. So the guy was actually able to get to the ball and did a very good cross-court dink and post me wide, but I was actually able to get to it quickly enough. And here, I could have chosen to do a proper ATP, but instead, I did this dink shot, this dink ATP. And the reason why I did this dink ATP is because I was hesitating. I wasn't sure if I should do a dink back this way to the middle, or dink in front of this guy, or I should have full ATP down this way. I had 3 options. I mean, the easiest shot to actually do is the ATP, but because in my drills I don't practice ATP enough, I didn't feel comfortable with this shot, and that actually caused a hesitation. As a result, I decided, so I was hesitating, trying to decide if I should dink it back over the net or do an ATP, and that hesitation resulted in me hitting this dink ATP, which was probably the worst thing I could have done in that situation. I could have hit just a normal dink back here, or ATP whack it. It would have all been better than a shot I ended up doing. So the learning I got from this is that when I'm in a tournament in the future, once I commit to a shot, whatever that shot comes up in my mind, I'm gonna have to commit to it, because confusion and hesitation is the worst thing that could happen when you're in the tournament game. Okay, I'm gonna let a point play out. I just missed it. Okay, next point. Okay, that was not a good return by me. It was very short. Okay, serve. Guy returns in the middle. I come over and take the third. Okay, same problem, and I'll point out in a bit. We got lucky with this point actually. So here, what's going on here is that there's actually a couple of things I wanted to point out. So if you're playing in doubles and your partner on the left-hand side is aggressively taking these middle balls, see how I'm shifting my body over to take this third. Now, what my son is doing is that he's actually backing up a little bit. I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to give me space, which is great. However, instead of backing up, what he could have done, and is what I recommend in general, is to shift over to the side and move up slightly this way. So he's always 1 or 2 steps ahead of me, who's having to stop and take the ball. So this way, if my drop shot ends up being a good quality drop shot, then he can capitalize this by moving up to the closing on the net quickly, and if they pop up the ball, he's going to be in a position to finish that ball. But instead, what happened was that my son was just standing there. He backed up a little bit, and then he's still assessing the ball. Now he recognizes a good drop. He's moving in, but you can see here how far behind my son is in relation to where I was. In theory, if you're the person taking the third shot, your partner should always be in front of you, and your partner should always be able to get to the net before you do, right? Because you have to stop, you have to stay behind and take that shot. Your partner is just standing there, and your partner should be moving slightly ahead of you, right? As soon as you see that drop is going to be a good one, move up, apply pressure at the net. Okay, over here, so I drop it in front of me. Again, not the best place to drop the ball, but I see the guy, not the best place to drop the ball. Usually, I would be dropping the ball cross court in front of my partner. I would be forcing the guy to hit the ball towards me because my partner would have this angle locked down. But in this case, I dropped it over here because the guy in white is not coming up. He's just taking his time to come up. I have a lot of real estate to hit a drop shot. And even if the drop is a little high, he is not in a position to punish me with a good fourth shot volley. That's why I dropped it to this guy over here. Okay. So I moved up. Now the guy again recognizes my son is still moving up to the kitchen, leaving a large amount of space in front of him. And he does the same thing. Just head the ball to where the empty spaces are. Then my son got to the ball, gets it back. But imagine, if my son was already here, by the time he hits the ball, then he could have attacked that ball because that ball came over the net quite high. You see? But because my son wasn't at the kitchen, all he could do is just do a dink back, cross court, and he hits a volley that got popped up. Again, same thing. If my son was already at the kitchen, if he didn't have to get back here to take the ball, he'll be at the kitchen. And if he was at the kitchen, that's a speed up. That's a off the air speed up. They would have been punished. Now, even then, I think he could have sped up this ball, but he decided to let the ball bounce, and he got pushed back a little bit, and he takes it off the bounce speed up. Not ideal. I think we got lucky here. The other team wasn't ready for that speed up, so lucky point again. Okay, next point. Serve. That was a good serve. Return was good. Okay, so this time I did drop it in front of my son. And let's see what happens next. Yeah, there we go. So I take the third. My son actually did a good. So watch what happened here, right? So he returns the ball to me. Very good return, by the way. Got enough height and very deep. I took the third and watch my son. This time, he's actually in front of me. Over here. Watching the ball. Assessing. He's waiting to see if I was going to be able to hit a good drop or not. And then when he saw the trajectory of the ball, he recognized that was going to be a good drop. He moved up very quickly. See how this time he was actually in front of me. He got to the kitchen before me. And as a result, what this is doing is that as my son moves up to the net, I'm following him. This is going to put a lot of pressure on this guy here. Because my son is not giving too much space for him to hit the ball in front of him. Then for the other team, the best thing for him to do is to hit it cross court to where he's going to have more real estate. And that is exactly what he did here. Because if he hits a bad ball towards my son and the ball pops up in the air, my son was going to be in the right position to punish him with a volley. Let's see. So he hits the ball cross court towards me, which is good. And my son is already at the kitchen. and I dinked it back cross court to him, and he actually has a really good volley dink that got behind me. I did not expect that shot. That was a very good shot by the other team. Just a good shot. Yeah, I was being maybe a little bit too aggressive. I was closing into the middle here, and I was actually expecting to pop up the ball so I can speed it up out of the air and hopefully finish the point. It just completely caught me off guard. But in this shot, my son did really well in terms of, when I was taking the third shot, he was giving me the space and he was running 1 or 2 steps in front of me. And then he waited there until he thought it was going to be a good drop. Then he moved up and closed in on the net very quickly. He got to the kitchen before me, and that's exactly what the partner should be doing. My son serves. Okay, so my son takes the third shot. He drives the ball through the middle. This is actually a very good drive here because as the ball crosses the net, it starts stepping down. So it forces the other guy to open up their paddle face and left the ball up. Something for me to think about is that maybe I should have trusted my son's drive a little bit more and moved up more quickly to over here. Because if the other team pops up the ball, which in this case they did, I was in a good position to finish the shake and bake. But my positioning was not aggressive enough in this case, and I stayed back because I was worried my son's drive was going to be high and then they're going to counter punch it back. So I stayed back a little bit too much, in my opinion. So you see here, I stayed back. The guy actually pops up the ball, and I could have easily attacked that ball if I was up in the front. As a result, we lost that point. So this was definitely a point that we should have won. I take responsibility for this point. Serve, my son returns. Good slice return, nice and deep. Okay, let's see what happens next. Good drop by the other team. Now my son did a good job of not letting the ball bounce. Just volley it back to the other side. And the other guy did another drop towards my son. Again, I think my son could have volleyed this ball out of the air. Instead, he got pushed back, let the ball bounce. It hits a very difficult shot, and he pops up the ball. The other guy speeds up the ball. Now, very luckily for us, he missed it into the net. We got another free point, but that was not our point to win. We should have not gotten a point there. And my son and I talked about this a lot afterwards. He usually is pretty good at taking the ball out of the air, but maybe the pressure of the first adult tournament is getting to him a little bit, and he was not feeling very comfortable taking the balls out of the air, which he normally does. So he was letting the ball bounce too much, and as a result, he was getting pushed back a lot and making the shots more difficult than they needed to be. Next point. Okay, I went over to take the ball from my son, and then I keep dropping it to my son. I'll take the second ball and volleys it back this way. Good shot. I was able to rescue the ball. Back over to the guy on the right, and then he dinks it back to my son. Now, one interesting point here. I think one thing my son did really well here is that as soon as he saw the guy heading to my back, I got pushed wide, and watch how he moves over to the middle. So he made himself very big and making sure that he got me covered because I got pushed very wide. And you'll see here, as I get pushed wide, my son just moves with me to the middle, making sure he got my back. As I recover my court position, my son and I moved synchronously, more or less maintaining our distance towards where the ball is, which is on this side of the court now. So we need to be closing in over here, and over here. And this is the shading that I was talking about. Depending on the position of the ball on the court, both players need to be shifting left or right to cut off the angles of your opponent's attack. And this is what we're trying to do here. But he gets to the ball, attacks it cross court. Yeah, so he sped up the ball cross court. Not the best thing to do here. Nevertheless, he got the ball over the net, heads at the guy's checking wing, and the guy counters it back to me. As soon as I saw that, I was getting ready to head the ball back to him. And then he heads a backhand volley, which went outside. I don't think he was expecting the ball to get back to him. Next point, my son serves. He returns the ball to my son again. Yeah, okay, same thing here. Same thing here, okay? So watch, he returns the ball towards my son. Again, I'm coming over aggressively to take the third. But instead of him moving around and go up this way, what my son did was that he backed away from the court, which puts him further away from the net. You can see here, backs up, he backs away from the court, and as I take the third, I'm moving up because I knew it was going to be a good drop towards the middle, but watch how far behind my son is now. Again, because of this person in white, he can see I'm not giving him too much space here. The easiest shot for him is to just get the ball back to where my son is, because he's leaving a lot of empty space in front of him. And this is what he did. So imagine if he hits that shot and my son is near the kitchen, he would have just crushed it. He would have just completely crushed it with a two-handed backhand. But he was so far away from the kitchen, he wasn't able to punish an error like that. Instead, he tries to do a reset, but pops up the ball. And the other guy speeds up on the ball, down at his feet. Good spot. My son was able to reset it. The ball was high again. And the other team was able to speed it up. A little bit unlucky. So that was unlucky. Barely missed the net. Another free point for us. Next point. Okay, my son serves. Yeah, just dumb mistake by me. Easy third. Okay. Nice, nice. Good point. This is actually a good point. So let's go back and see what happened here. So my son hits a third here. And watch my position. I'm here, which is about a step or two ahead of my son, right? Watching and judging the trajectory of the ball and see if it's going to be a good drop or a good drive and get ready to move up. My son hits a very good topspin, aggressive drop. Very good. And I saw that. He saw that. Both of us moved up to the net very quickly. Then the guy in gray pops up the ball. And then my son took it out of the air, a lunge step volley, forehand speed up, which barely missed the net. I like this shot. That was the right shot to take. It was a little bit unlucky that it barely missed the net. But good point, good play. And that's why I was saying to him, the right shot. I like that shot. Keep going. But he did look a little bit disappointed. Okay, next point. Return. Tried to lob my son. I told him to bounce and he got it back. Beautiful. There we go. Another free point. My reset was high, but the other guy wasn't able to punish us, so we got a free point. Okay, next point. Nice return. Yeah, okay. So my son actually played really well here. Let's go back and see what happened here. Okay, so the guy drives the ball. It was a very high drive, but my son got to the kitchen very quickly. He was able to stabilize his body and hits a beautiful two-handed backhand volley. It was a little high because the ball was quite high, but the ball did land in right at the guy's foot. And they tried to drop it. Again, quite high. My son was able to punch it down with a nice forehand volley. And they managed to get the ball back again. I think at this point, my son was probably losing a little bit of patience. He really tried to, because he hit 2 good volleys previous to this, and we were not able to end the points. And he was maybe trying to do a little bit too much. He overdid it a little bit, which is a common thing that a lot of players do, including myself. When you're in the match, when you're in the game, you find yourself being in an advantageous position. You're keeping your opponents back at the baseline. You keep hitting good volleys at them. They keep getting the ball back to you. A lot of us will start to lose patience, and we try to do a little bit too much because we're trying to rush and hit the winner. And as a result, that's actually going to make you more prone to error, and you end up losing the point. So I think the right mindset to be in that situation is just to keep hitting the ball back to them. Keep doing what you've been doing leading up to that point. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to hit winners. Be patient. Eventually, because you have to think about it. If you're at the kitchen with your teammate, the other team is way back at the baseline, you have a much higher chance of winning that point. You're in a much more advantageous position. So there's no reason for you to be impatient. You just have to keep hitting the ball back to them with maybe 60 or 70% of the power, keeping them back. They're going to be more likely making a mistake than you, because hitting a drop shot from the baseline to the kitchen is way harder than you standing there just punching the ball back at them. So my son tries to overhead it a little bit. It was a very good angle. I like his placement, but it missed the baseline long by just a little bit. Next point. Okay. Yeah, that was just a lucky shot by the other team. It just touched the line. Sometimes these things happen in tournaments. There's not much you can do about it. Nice return. Okay, they try to lob him again, but this time the lob missed long. Yeah, so I wanted to stop here and talk about this point. So they returned the ball to me. It was a nice return, deep. And I dropped it in front of me. Watch my son this time. He was a little bit in front of me, paying very close attention to how I was going to be hitting that ball. If my body was in full balance, if my form was good, these are all factors that if you're not taking a shot, you can all pay attention to. If your partner who's taking the ball is not in a very well-balanced position, there's a very good chance that the quality of that shot is not going to be very good. In that case, you should be more cautious about moving up. But he saw me. I was in full control of my body. As soon as he saw the trajectory of the ball, he knew it was going to be a good drop, and he moved up very quickly to the net to capitalize this opportunity. See how this time, because he's getting close to the net here, he's cutting off the options for this guy. He could either hit the ball back here, but those would have been very difficult shot for him to hit and out of the air. The easiest shot for him to do as a volley, just to get the ball back to me. There's a lot more space for him to hit the ball to. So I move up. The ball was high. Again, I think I could have been more aggressive here in terms of moving up more quickly. And if I did, I could have punished that ball. It was a very high drop. Instead, I let the ball bounce, playing a safe shot of just dropping it in front of my son, cross court. But you see how my son, again, is not moving his body over this way to cover the line. He's leaving a big gap over here for the opponent to head the ball to. Now the drop itself was pretty good, and he also did the right smart shot here by just placing the ball in front of him. And my son had to run back and close the gap and get the ball back, which was not an easy shot. He missed it to the net. Again, it just shows you, it just goes to show, you know, the importance of positioning. If my son was a little bit over this way, then he was in a very good position to speed up on that ball. Instead, he got pushed back and had a very tough shot. Okay, good point. Good learnings, guys. Okay, return error, serve, return. Okay, let's see what happened here. Let's go back. Okay, so the guy returns the ball to the middle. So again, I'm coming here aggressively, taking a third, dropping it in front of me. But because my son is coming back to the kitchen too late, the guy heads the ball cross court back to him. My son got pushed back again. I had a very tough shot. He was able to barely get the ball over the net. And the other guy hits across to my backhand. I did a cross court dink, pushes him wide, and he switches to his left hand and does a left-handed cross court speed up as a last resort effort to win a point. I saw that coming. I did a backhand volley, punch volley to the empty space, and we got that point. Okay, next point. Okay, that's a missed serve. Okay, so let me stop right here. I want to talk about why I missed that volley. This is a common mistake I see in a lot of people. So as I return, as I hit the ball, I was also moving myself forward and leveraging that forward momentum to get to the kitchen as quickly as possible. And right here, the other team did a nice forehand drive. Now my split step came a little bit too late because ideally I should be starting my split step right before the guy heads the ball. Instead, I was still moving my body until right about here before I was completely able to stabilize my body, and then trying to rush into hitting this fourth shot volley with a big swing. Because I was trying to just hit it down hard. Instead, I missed the ball because when I'm trying to do a big swing, right after I barely balance my body, the timing gets very difficult. I completely mishit the ball. I think the ball may have hit the handle of the paddle. My split step came too late. I should have stopped earlier, right about here, and just wait for the ball to come to me with a quiet body. And second mistake is instead of trying to do this big swing, just a simple, compact punch volley is going to do the job. Yeah, he tries to lob my son again. Good lob. Okay, unlucky. A nice two-handed backhand volley. Missed it wide just by a little bit. Okay. Yep. So, okay. So here, my son returns the ball, but it was not a good return. Again, the ball was very short, and it made it super easy for the guy to just speed it up at him, cross court to his forehand. Again, too big of a swing. He was trying to do too much with his paddle. I think he was trying to hit like a top spin forehand volley. Instead, he mishits the ball pops up. An easy winner for the other guy. Hits it down. Okay, next point. Okay, third shot drop, miss. Okay, so here he serves to my son's backhand. It was actually a really good serve. And my son's return was short again, not a great return. And he allows him and then this guy drops it into the kitchen, and I came over to take this shot. I redirect the ball towards my side, and then he hits a cross court half volley dink back towards my son. Now my son got pushed wide here. The easy thing for him to do here is just to hit an easy dink, right in front of him. It's just to hit an easy drop or dink in front of him. Instead here, he was trying to hit a winner by doing a cross-court speed up that was high, and the guy saw that coming and punched it back down at him and accidentally hits his body, and he apologized right away. Okay, so next point, he serves the ball at me. That's a return. Not a good return by me. Very short. The guy was able to just drive this ball very easily at me. I was ready for it. A little high, but I didn't have the space in front of me. He couldn't punish me. And then he drops the ball to my forehand. I took it out of the air and I hit it back towards the middle. And he pops out the ball to the middle, and I was able to do a backhand punch volley at his shoulder. It worked. Next point. Yeah, just a little unlucky here. Okay, so I started the point serving, and then the ball was returned to my son, and I came over aggressively to take that third shot and just dropping it to the middle, and he pops up the ball, and I wanted to poach that ball here with my forehand. It was a really good attack. The ball was dipping as he crossed the net, and the guy barely hits the ball, and then it touched the net and rolled over the net, and we lost that point. It was a little unlucky, and not much we could have done about it. And again, like I said, in a tournament, sometimes in any game, these things will happen. It's important to stay in the game and not let these things bother you. Just focus on the next point. Another missed third by me. Yeah, good drop, good drop. Yeah, see how, same thing here. They drive at me, but this time, the difference is that I made it to the kitchen quickly because my return was deep, and I stopped way earlier. Just a simple, compact punch volley. Hitting the ball back down at them. As simple as that. Sometimes when we try to do too much in the game, you end up making a mistake. Next point. Yeah, again here, same thing like I talked about before. Yeah, so the guy pops up the volley. Instead of backing away from the ball and let it bounce, I think my son could have just attacked this ball out of the air. Look how out of balance his body was when he hit this shot, and he pops up the ball as a result, and then there's an easy backhand volley by the other guy, which hits a really good angle towards my backhand, and there was very little I could do. Okay, my son serves again. Okay, so this is something that's worth stopping and talk a little bit more about. The guy returns the ball to the middle, and I was rushing towards the ball, but my son was actually ready to take that ball as well. I think we're both in a race situation here where he was trying to get to the ball and I was rushing to try and take the ball. This is not a good situation to be in, because when you're rushing to get a ball, you will mess up that shot. And that's the reason why I popped up the ball. So I pop up the drop shot, and then it was an easy fourth shot volley by the other guy. He hits it back towards me at my foot, and then I tried to reset it out of the air. Again, popped up the ball, and an easy winner. That was definitely my fault. I really should have just let my son take that shot. Okay. Bad return by me though. I think we got lucky. The guy barely missed the drive. Nice. So, okay, here's the same situation again. The guy dinks cross court to my son, pushes him wide. Instead of speeding it up like last time, he takes his time and does a one-handed slice backhand dink cross court back to him. And then he dinks the ball back to my son over here. And the ball was quite dead. Okay. And then my son did a more aggressive 200 backhand topspin dink, which sets up the ball beautifully for me. And I was able to move in and capitalize on this opportunity and head it back down at their feet. To my surprise, the guy actually got the ball back, and I got to the ball and then tried to dink the ball towards this side here, and then he was able to get to the ball and I hit it cross court to my son again, and this time my son was in a good position. Look how balanced his body is. And because of that, he was in a good position to do a speed up. And the quality of the speed up was definitely better than the previous one. And the other guy pops up the ball. And then we're able to finish that point. Very good point. Well played by my boy. Next point. Okay, missed return. Yeah, just a bad decision making. I could have just let the ball bounce there. Yeah, that was the last point of the tournament. The analysis was helpful for you. And if you learned something from this video, please help me out by liking this video and share this with other people who you think may also learn from watching this as well. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to this channel. It's a great way to help the growth of this channel. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to this channel. Again, I thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next video.